Hey guys, and welcome back to Gap Grace Point Online. Today we start our brand new October and November series called Covered, and we look what covered means in our context as Christians today. So our series title Covered is a bit of a play on words, which means that it has more than just one meaning. So we've got more meanings than just one in the word covered. Firstly, covered means protected. Often when we want something to be protected, we'll cover it, or we would cover it with a layer of paint or a layer of cloth. So when we want to protect something, we would cover it. And so this series is about teaching you how to protect yourself and keep yourself protected, as well as others around you. To have something covered means to take care of everything that is needed for the situation to work out well. And so when we say we've got you covered, it means we want to equip you so that you can help yourself and others feel safe. We've got you covered. And then lastly, each of us is covered by God and by Jesus. By Jesus, he says that he has covered us with his blood so that we are forgiven from our sins, but that God is also protecting us and looking out for us all the time. And so we are covered in all three of these senses. And that's why our series is called Covered. This series is a little bit different from all the series that we've done this year, because not only do we see what we need to do as people of God, but we also learn some practical things that we can do in order for ourselves to be safe and to help others keep safe. This program is called Protective Behaviors, and it teaches us things that we can do in order to help ourselves be assured to be safe. A behavior is a way in which someone conducts themselves or acts so that they can do something. In our case, it's a behavior or a way we conduct ourselves in order to keep ourselves safe, meaning free from harm. And so this is about protective behaviors as we look at our series of Covered. So today I want to tell you a story about a time where the Israelites lived in the desert. Now, long before they lived in the desert, they were living in Egypt. However, they did not feel very safe, and nor were they safe in the place of Egypt. They were slaves, so they were not free, and they were treated badly. They didn't feel safe, and there were no measures in place for them to keep safe. And so God did not want them to feel unsafe or scared or unprotected anymore. So he came up a plan which he used his people to carry out. Among the people that God used was Moses and his brother Aaron to lead the people out of Egypt so that they could be safe again. So the job that Moses and Aaron had was to lead the people out of Egypt to be safe again, so that they could eventually go into the place where they were promised by God that they would be safe, protected, and happy again. This land was called the Promised Land. But before they could enter into the Promised Land, God led them into the desert because there were some things that they had to learn and realize before they could go into the Promised Land, that time where they would feel like this was it. And so in the desert, God showed them things that they needed to learn. On one specific occasion, he gave them a set of guidelines or health and worship and safety guidelines that would help them live in such a way that they and those around them would be safe, but also that they would be able to worship God in a way that God desired for them to worship him. And so they found themselves in the desert with lots to learn. And we find these health, wellness, safety, and worship guidelines in the book of Exodus 20. So we find this in the book of Exodus in chapter 20. You can go read for yourself as it's quite a long passage. But essentially, these guidelines came to be known as the 10 Commandments. And so this showed the people how to live in a way that they were safe, but also to worship God in the way that he desired to be worshipped. These commandments can still be followed by us today, and even the New Testament elaborations or summaries of it, such as the ones that we find in Luke 10, verse 27, which says, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, your soul, and your strength, and love your neighbor as you love yourself." It's telling us the same thing as the 10 Commandments, but it's an elaboration or a summary of it, which helps us as New Testament Christians today live in a way that this is practical. We also have a set of guidelines for us today to live out so that everyone feels safe and protected in our society today. This is called our rights and is known in South Africa as the Bill of Rights and our South African Constitution. Essentially, this helps us live in a way that everyone has equality, dignity, and freedom. And so each of us has rights. Rights is something that no one can take away from you. It's something that you have simply because you're human. And if someone tries to take it away from you, you should and are allowed to do something about it. Did you know that you have special rights simply because you are a child? Because we recognize that you need to be especially protected and looked after so that you can feel safe. Do you know some of the rights you have? These rights include the right to food, adequate shelter, education, religion, and many more. But the most important one for us today is that we all of us, have the right to feel safe all the time. If we go and break it down as we all have the right to feel safe all the time or at all times, it shows us that every single person has the right to be safe or to feel safe, so free from harm at every point of their life and any time. With our rights, we all have certain responsibilities, which are things that we need to do in order to help other people feel safe as well, or keep ourselves safe, or honor the rights that we have. For example, the right to education would mean that we have the responsibility to go to school and to do our schoolwork. And so, there are a few critical things that we need to know about feeling safe. The first one is that feeling safe is a basic human right. A human right is something that no one can take away from us. Number 3, that because we are human, we have a basic human right to feeling safe. And number 4, that when our human rights are not being met, we can and are able to speak to someone to correct this. There is a difference between feeling safe and being safe. For example, if you're at the beach and you don't see the big wave, you could be feeling safe, but you're not safe. Whereas there are other times where we don't feel safe, where we are actually safe. For example, walking past a house where there is a big dog barking at you behind a gate. You are safe because the dog is secure, but you do not feel safe at that point. But the most important thing is that we all have the right to feel safe all the time. So to wrap us up for today, there are a few important things that we need to remember. Firstly, that God gave the Israelites their guidelines in order to keep them safe and live in a way that everyone is safe, but also that God was being adequately worshipped. We in the same way need to follow these commandments as they're known today in order to worship God properly, as well as the New Testament elaborations and summaries of it. We also have rights and responsibilities as part of being human today. And if someone tries to take that away from you, you have the right to do something about it and to approach someone who can help you do something about it. In this series, we won't have a memory verse, but we will have a catchphrase. And so our catchphrase for today that you can remember in order to help you remember the lesson is that we all have the right to feel safe at all times, or we all have the right to feel safe all the time. It's up to you which one you'd like to learn, but really go and learn that, as it will help you remember that you have the right to be safe and feel safe all the time. That's it from us today here at Gap Gracepoint Online, but don't forget that there is a resource in the comment below that you can do to help you remember what we spoke about today and help you apply it to your life. Bye guys, see you next week.